Hello, sixth grade. It's another Saturday and another unit that we are starting. And I realize that we're not actually in school on Saturdays, so my bad there, but I am recording at home and trying to get a few of these done so that I can post them for those of you who are either at home because you aren't feeling well, or you're at home quarantined, or you're at home thinking, I just really zoned out while she was talking today because that woman never stops talking, and you suddenly realize that you kind of, missed the whole point of the lesson, so you just need to rewatch. Or maybe you're just really studious and you want to rewatch just for the sake of, being a little more prepared. Okay, so here is what I want us to go over today. We're going to introduce our new standard and basically like the new idea, and then we're going to start working on building up our class notes while we do that. Now, normally the class notes that I put up for you guys are in just straight Google Docs note format. However, for this unit, there's a lot of visuals that go along with it, a lot of photos, a lot of videos, things like that. So I'm actually going to have these in a Google Slide document that I will share with all of you and add to throughout the unit. Let me know if that makes it easier, if it makes it harder, I don't know, but I think it will work better for this unit. So first things first, let's talk about what we're going to talk about. We are getting into one of my favorite units, which is renewable and non-renewable energy resources. And this is something that's it's so relevant to everyday life, and especially for people in your generation. We're starting to really see, and for some number of years have been seeing kind of a crisis in energy production. And I know that somebody out there is probably going, wait, Miss Johnson, didn't you say that because of the law of conservation of energy, energy can be neither created nor destroyed? Yes, I did. And that is true. However, is it contradictory to what I'm about to tell you? Nay, it is not. And here is why. If you go back in your textbook and you look, we had a word, it started with C, and it meant when we're using a word in its kind of everyday usage and not in its formal usage, that word was colloquialism. So when we talk about this, and we're talking about creating energy and creating jobs in the energy sector, or running out of energy, we're not talking about it in the source of the ability to do work or cause change. We are talking about it in its colloquial sense, which basically means the power we need to just get things done in life. A lot of times it breaks down to just being like a way to produce electricity, or a way to produce something that will kind of instigate or fuel mechanical energy. So we're going to be largely looking at chemical energy sources and talking about that. So I want to distinguish that whereas we did just say energy can't be created or destroyed, and are now going to say, hey, let's figure out how to make energy, these are not contradictory things. It's just using energy one way here and using it in its colloquial sense here. And again, I think the word colloquial is fun to say. So it's a great word to memorize for bonus questions. Just saying. All right, so let's move on. In our textbooks, I even have mine at home with me, we should be at Roman numeral pages 34 and 35. Easy way to recognize this one. We've got our little Nashville skyline here, Nashville being, of course, the capital of Tennessee, so important there. Now, we have already run through these energy standards that I have highlighted. Ooh, and in fact, I can highlight the thermal energy one now too. These are things we've mastered. We can talk about and compare sources of mechanical, electrical, chemical, radiant, and thermal energy. I got this. Mechanical, basketball midair. Electrical, finger in a socket, don't do it. Chemical, can you eat it or set it on fire? Radiant, moves through space. Thermal energy, has to do with heat, things being hot. Got that. We did our little car labs and talked about all kinds of things. We saw some speed skaters wiping out. Sorry, it's not funny, but It's pretty funny. To talk about the relationship between speed, mass, and kinetic energy. And we talked about convection, conduction, and radiation. We know that if we're talking about conduction, it's like the ow, don't touch it. It's hot. Things have to be touching. If we're talking about convection, that's when we have that whole like it moves through fluids, and we're like heating up, cooling down. And it's just some sort of weird yoga thing. If we are talking about radiation, it's like, I'm a redhead in the sun. That sort of moving through space, keeping the world going, keeping redheads perpetually sunburned. It's just the way things are. So now we are moving on, skipping way down here to disciplinary core idea 6.ESS3 Earth and Human Activity. Oh boy. So preface on this, before we even get into that, when we talk about Earth and human activity, this is something where a lot of people's opinions rise to the surface very quickly. I'm putting that out there. It's a warning. I have to really kind of keep mine in check, and I'm going to try to do my best this year to do that because it's not always easy. People are very passionate about their views on how humans should interact with Earth. We have people that are very concerned and say, oh, we're trashing the environment. This is probably going to cause the end of mankind. And we have other people who, take things a little bit differently. We're going to leave all that at the door and just look at this from a scientific perspective. Okay, there are a lot of opinions to be had, but opinions they're a lot like dirty socks. Everybody has them, and no one really wants yours. Okay, so we'll leave it at that, and just try to stay as neutral as we can through this. And I expect that from myself as well as from you guys. Now we will open up the floor for discussion because that's healthy, but it is also it's sometimes more important to be kind than to be right, especially in a field where we're not always sure if we're right. Hello, science. Anyway, stepping off my soapbox. So our very first standard, and I'm going to switch over to presentation mode so I can get you into the notes. Present, my entire screen. Go ahead. There we go. It's an infinite number of me in boxes. That's horrifying. All right, so moving over, I have our class notes. Yeah, I know I'm presenting. You go away, but thank you, Safari, for letting me know. Okay, I'm just gonna let that go. So looking here, our class notes are starting out, and again, it's gonna be in a Google slide. So I'm keeping mine out of presentation mode. When you are going through these, I would say keep them in presentation mode so that the links are readily available to you. I have not put all the links in, but we will be adding those in. So we're going to go through today and just quickly kind of go through the basic overview of what renewable and non-renewable means. What are those things? All right, so I just almost dropped my science book. Our first standard. All right, here we go. Big thing. Differentiates between renewable and non-renewable resources by asking questions about their availability and sustainability. Okay, so there's a lot to unpack here. You guys have done a great job so far on the word differentiate. We know that we can take away the T8 part or the E8 part, and we have the word different. We are looking for differences between things. And what are we looking for? Renewable and non-renewable resources. How are we doing it? We're going to do it by asking questions and presumably by answering the questions as well. I am not the biggest fan of how this standard is written because it really should say asking and answering questions. However, this is the official standard. You know what? I'm going to add a little bit to it. And answering. Shh, don't tell. I made the standard a little better. Okay, so asking and answering questions about availability and sustainability. All right. So normally when we go through and we look at standards, we figure out like what are the words that we have to know in order to really be able to. I'm trying to think of like what the term I want to use here is. Um, we think about what we what we need to do to be able to have this standard. I keep using the word unpacked, but I just feel like it's a really good word. Um, I don't really want to highlight that actually. I'm going to go back to just. Uh, okay. So differentiate is one that we already know about. It's a verb. I'm going to put my verbs here in italics. So we know to differentiate is to find that by asking, meaning that we're going to like look at these things and figure out what are the questions we need to ask to make determinations. Answering, finding the answers to those questions about their availability and sustainability. So all of my verbs are now in italics. I know what I need to do. I need to differentiate, I need to ask, and I need to answer my questions. And once I can do that, if I can do those things, I have met this standard. All right, now we have some new vocabulary. Renewable and non-renewable resources. I'm going to go through and underline these. Also, availability and sustainability. I'm leaving the and in there because I don't really want to have to go back and do that over again. So now if we look at our standard, we know exactly what we need to be figuring out. We are going to have to figure out what renewable and non-renewable mean. This is part of our goal for today. And we've got to figure out availability and sustainability. Most of these are pretty familiar words. You've heard the word renew, I'm sure. For example, I need to renew my HBO Max subscription. Non-renewable, we know what non means. It's basically just a prefix that means not. So we can look at that and say it's not renewable. If my HBO Max subscription cannot be renewed, it is non-renewable. But how does that apply to resources, and what are resources? That's an important question. The next is availability and sustainability. So availability, I think, is going to be easier to crack. We know what it means if something's available. Looking at how and where things are available, that's a little different. Sustainability, that one we might have a little bit of a harder time with. We know if something's sustainable. We've probably heard that word. I mean, I certainly have, like, nonstop for the last, I don't know, 30 years. But anyway, you guys have probably heard that word used and don't have a lot of a reference point for it. So moving on from there, let's kind of get into finding a definition for our first big word here, renewable. Okay, so this says found around the house. That's just kind of the original thing there. Okay, if I go to dictionary.com and, it's the world's fastest dictionary. And I look at the word that I'm going for here, renewable. Well, this is pretty easy. Able to be renewed. No joke. Something that is renewable. All right, I would like to say that I don't find this especially helpful. I say all the time that we have issues with defining a word by using the word itself. That's something that I often am going like, hey, we tend to do this, blah, blah, blah. Oh, that was a great answer, student A, but you kind of use the word to define itself. And unfortunately, renewable is one that it's so easy to do that with. So if we look through, the pages we should have started already, pages 178 through 185, we have a whole lot of stuff in there. Our vocabulary, we've got solar energy, hydroelectric power, biomass fuel, gasohol, geothermal energy, nuclear fission, reactor vessel, fuel rod, control rod, nuclear fusion should maybe be there too. Actually, I don't think nuclear should be there. We'll talk about that later. But the one word that's not there is renewable. Okay. So we have this first paragraph, and this is what it says. And this is a time when I think our book is not actually super helpful. It gives us a lot of examples, but it doesn't tell us what the word means. It says coal, oil, and natural gas are not the only energy options available. Renewable sources of energy include sunlight, water, wind, biomass fuels, and geothermal energy. Okay. Um, cool, but it doesn't tell us what renewable means. So, able to be renewed. Um, to renew something is just kind of to, like, literally, if we break this word down, re means again, and new means new. So it means to make new again. We can make it new again. We can keep it going, keep it going, keep it going, keep it going, and like not run out of it. So if we really want to put in a definition, we're going to have to come up with our own. So, able to be renewed, not a huge fan of this, meaning that we will never run out of it. That's important. And that we can always make more of it or harness slash use more of it. Okay, I think this is okay. I feel like that's a little sloppy. I may go in and change it a few times, probably a lot of times, and I may add to it. So, what are our examples here? Let's take a look at renewable resources. And I'm going to go, you can find so much. This is a rabbit hole, you guys. And if you don't know what a rabbit hole means, it doesn't literally mean that I'm advising you to go like find the home of a bunny and crawl into it and seek out bunny wisdom. Um, Fun fact, I tried that. It, it didn't work out. I'm just, don't ever put your hand in a bunny hole. You will get bitten. No, this refers to something from Alice in Wonderland where Alice falls down a rabbit hole and then is sucked into a whole world of, I don't know, wonder, chaos, whatever. So when we're going to go down the rabbit hole of renewable energy, we will see so many different sources. Some will be very biased, meaning that some will have a lot of information that leaves out some important stuff. Some will have a lot of information that leaves that adds important stuff that isn't necessarily the whole truth. But if we look for reputable sources like National Geographic, okay, this has been around forever, they're probably going to be pretty straight up with us about what's going on, which is why we are going to use this. And while we are doing this, I'm going to write it down. And I would appreciate you doing the same if you're at home, or you can, type it in your phone. I don't care. Send yourself a text message. Our types of renewable energy resources. I'm going to make a list here. Hey, Grammarly. Getting back to that video was pretty brief, and one thing I like about it is it doesn't just. I mean, it definitely sings that. Sorry, my leg was falling asleep, and I don't get it. My legs have been very restless at night, but all of a sudden during the day they're sleepy. What's up with that? Anyway, so one thing that I like about these videos is that they don't just say like, "Ooh, this is the golden solution to everything." No, they mention that there are some downsides too, but just broadly present us with an idea. I did write down some things that I will come back to later when we really start talking about benefits of renewable energy and some of the downsides of renewable energy. But for now, I just want us to go through and create our list and maybe add in a couple of things later. Okay, so renewable. Able to be renewed, meaning we'll never run out of it. I did like that she said it is naturally replenishing, meaning that it will naturally renew itself. And another thing that she mentioned, well, you know what? I'm going to see if you can figure this one out. Okay, so the sources that she listed, which make up right now about 10% of global energy use, are wind. I'm starting to sound like Captain Planet real quick here. Sun or solar energy. Fun fact, solar comes from the name of the star that is our sun, which is Sol, S-O-L. So that's why we call it solar. Hydro, and I'm going to put down I'm going to put down hydroelectric. This breaks down into literally water electric. So we'll put down water power there. Geothermal and biomass. This is what we have listed. We may discover a few other ones. We may talk about some theoretical ones that have not come along yet. But looking at these, we'll get some very brief definitions. But they're pretty self-explanatory. So wind, we're thinking windmills, we're thinking wind turbines, all of those things. Wind energy's been in use for hundreds of years. We think about, if we look at Dutch windmills, you will be like, oh yeah, I know what those look like. They're in like every storybook. When we look at these windmills, they've been used to do something like grind grain, and windmills have been used for a long time. Now they've really stepped it up, and we'll talk more about that later. Oops, wrong one. There we go. Sun, solar, you've seen solar panels. We'll talk about some really interesting innovations in solar panels, like solar IV, of which I am a huge fan. Hydroelectric. I'm going to put a little emphasis on hydroelectric. I'm going to make it, blue seems like a great color for something that has to do with water, doesn't it? Now that's not very bright, so I'm also going to make it in bold and underline it. No, not italicize it, underline it. And I will put a link probably in there later. Hydroelectric is really important to our area. Part of what I love about talking about this unit is that we live in an area that has been famously known for both fossil fuel or non-renewable use and for hydroelectric or renewable energy use. The TVA, and that is Tennessee Valley Authority, not Time Variance Authority. The Tennessee Valley Authority produces tons and 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 tons, just kilojoules of hydroelectric energy around here, and that's great. Geothermal energy, we know thermal means having to do with heat. Geo, if you think of geography B, or geology being like studying the Earth's crust and the rocks in it, means having to do with Earth. So we're literally talking about Earth heat. Bio means having to do with life. Mass, just kind of, really scientifically, it means stuff. So biomass is like life stuff, living things. And that sounds horrible. It's not like we are going to go just like burn cows for fuel, but we might burn cow duty for fuel, or fallen trees, or sustainably forested things. And we'll get into all of these later. So she mentioned that these are naturally replenishing. They just kind of keep showing up on their own. And almost all of them come from the sun. Come from the sun. No, come from the sun. Good grief. I'm full of typos. However, indirectly. Okay, so what I mean by that, if we think about wind, wind is caused by uneven heating of the Earth's surface. What heats the Earth's surface? The sun. How is solar energy related to the sun? Well, it's the same thing. Hydroelectric. The water cycle is powered by, guess what? Uneven heating and the sun. Biomass. If we're talking about living things, we have to include the sun. Life on Earth does not exist without the sun. Geothermal is the only one of these that does not rely on the sun. I wonder if I can type in a no sun emoji here. No, probably not. Maybe I'll do that on my own time. All right, so then that gets us into non-renewable. So we can kind of guess that this means unable or not able to be renewed. So let's go back to our good friend dictionary.com. Someday I'll give you guys a quiz on how well you can use a dictionary. That's always funny. Let's see. Non-renewable. Not able to be restored, replaced, recommenced, etc., like non-renewable resources. Okay, so I like this. Restored, replaced. Let's go ahead and put that in. Let's leave recommenced out because I'm not even 100% sure I know what that means. Restored. Oh, what was the third one? Bad Becky, I forgot. Replaced. There we go. Or replaced. We can run out of these. They have a finite supply. Now, I made finite a big word. We talk about infinity and beyond all the time. We know what infinity means. It means it goes on forever and ever and ever. If we take the in part of that, which means not, if we mean it is unable to go on forever and ever and ever, means we have a finite supply. So this means, and this is not to say these are not good resources, but it does mean that we can run out of them. All right, so let's figure out if we can get kind of an idea about these. I'm going to use the Fossil Fuels 101 video, also by Nat Geo. Uh-oh. I don't think this is the one I want. Maybe it is. We'll find out. Nope, it's definitely not. Hold on. Here we go. So we're going to look at kind of like what fossil fuels are and then add a little bit on because there is another sector of energy sources that apply to this. Come on, man, play. Oh my goodness, these ads. Fossil fuels are natural, non-renewable energy resources. Blech. Okay, so I'm going to stop here and kind of explain some of this. It does say that they are non-renewable resources, but they are natural. A lot of people throw around, well, it's not natural. It's not natural. No, these things are totally natural. It's why we call it natural gas when we're talking about, gaseous petroleum. So the Carboniferous period, which is a fun word, and carbon, oh my gosh, is going to come up in these discussions a lot. So Carboniferous means that there is a lot of carbon going on. And by that, I mean a lot of stuff was decomposing. So what essentially happens is our fossil fuels. And the reason they're called fossil fuels is millions and millions of years ago. I'm going to switch back over to my hand gestures here. Millions and millions of years ago, lots of living organisms died. Some in the sea, we're talking about like little microorganisms, maybe a tiny squid here and there, little snail, lots of phytoplankton, meaning like plankton that is more plant-based. dead plants and things. They sink to the bottom. As they sink to the bottom, more and more pressure from the water comes on. Sediments or, dirt, kind of muddy dust and things kind of fills in on top, and it just stays under pressure. And over millions and millions of years, it keeps getting under pressure and keeps getting under pressure. And eventually, millions of years later, turns into these pockets of things like oil and natural gas. We also had this happening on lands with things like trees, some dead animals probably thrown in the mix too. Mosses, things like this, getting covered in stuff and compressing until they are in like a rock-based carbon form, and that would be coal. So this is kind of how these things form. They have to be under it's carbon under a lot of pressure. So all of our fossil fuels, we call them fossil fuels because they're old, but they really are just super old, dead, decayed organisms. So neat, but also like, ew, ew. Okay, I'd like to shout out to Rebecca here for spelling her name the same way as me. Anyway, so this goes on to tell us that these non-renewable resources. Starting, oh, my other foot's asleep. I've got to stop just sitting on my feet, but otherwise I'm not tall enough to fit in the screen. Sorry, this is just a lot of confusion. You know what? I'm just gonna full on rearrange. Sorry. Nope, not that way. There we go. I think that's gonna. Anyway. So discomfort's just part of the job of a sixth grade science teacher. So we have these non-renewable resources. They've been very reliable for the last like 300 years. We've been able to access them pretty easily. It's what we use for, if we saw 10% of energy usage globally being renewable, that tells us 90% is coming from non-renewable sources. The one that does not get included in the fossil fuels bit, because it's not technically a fossil fuel, are our nuclear fuels, are things like uranium, which can be turned into plutonium and neptunium, thorium, other radioactive elements that we can use to produce nuclear energy. Now, there are ways to make renewable nuclear energy. It's kind of its own big ball of scary but cool. And we'll get into it. I love talking about nuclear energy. My whole family works in the nuclear energy sect, and we will talk about it at length. But those do not get included, though they should make the list. So back to that list. Making our list here, the fossil fuels that were laid out, they didn't go into specifics, so I want to break those down for you. The first one is what we would call oil or liquid petroleum. These are our fossil fuels, the first three that I'm listing. The next would be natural gas, which is gaseous or, in a gas state. Gaseous petroleum. Coal, which, big old carbon rocks. If Santa is mad at you, you get some of those, but joke's on Santa because coal's actually worth quite a bit of money now. Coal, and then nuclear fuels, but I'm gonna put a little dot there because there's some stuff to go along with there. So then, let's see. Have we been able to identify some nuclear and non-renewable things? Yes, but have we asked and answered questions about their availability and sustainability? Nah, we have not. So what are availability and sustainability? I just want to show you guys what shows up if you look through YouTube. So sustainability means availability. Stanford eCorner. Okay, so this is going to be I'm not going to watch that because it has Harrison Ford and he is famous for just not minding his language, but maybe I will watch this later. When we talk about availability, we talk about, like, is something available? Can we access it? Can we access it easily? How are we doing this? When we talk about sustainability, we are really talking about how long can we use something? So when we get into these, we see sustainability of resources here. Um, and then if we keep going on, we'll see a lot of words like crisis, possibilities. And then we also will start, if we just look at sustainability, and here's one: guidelines for providing product sustainability information. We have to be very careful about the information that we get here, because a lot of it is business oriented, which is not bad. I mean, you need to understand that sustainability is a word that applies there as well. However, for what we are doing, it's not there. So let's take a look and see what we get for availability. So for something to be available, suitable or ready for use, it's at hand, meaning that we can grab it and use it. Readily obtainable, meaning that we can get it easily. Accessible, we can reach it. Yeah, not involved in a romantic relationship is probably not what we're going for here. Okay, let's look at sustainable. Capable of being supported or upheld, pertaining to a system that maintains its own viability, which means kind of like how long it can last, by using techniques that allow for continual reuse. Okay, so continual reuse sounds a lot like renewable. That sounds very similar. Able to be maintained or kept going. We see these things going. So I think we can generate some definitions from that. So for something to be available, and I will make sure that we have these down. Availability. There we go. If we're asking questions about availability, we're looking to see if something is accessible. Accessible, easy to get to. Is it readily, I'm using the word available for use? Do we have it on hand? Do we have a supply? All of those questions are going to go into availability. And I'm sorry, that's a little scattered, but so is the concept of availability. Sustainability. Oh, I need to make my text a little bigger, don't I? This is hard for me to read. Okay, sustainability, the big question comes down to this. How long can we use something? Is it something we will run out of? Can we use it short term? Meaning, like, if it's something, say, for example, I said to you, oh, I found this really great fuel. They're called midichlorians, but we can only use them for a week. That would be like a short term use. Can we use it short term, long term, or in perpetuity? And perpetuity just means forever. I just want you to be able to, like, know some big words. It's always a great way to impress the people in your life. Okay, so when we're looking at sustainability, how long can we use something? Is it something we'll run out of? Can we use it short term, long term, in perpetuity? It's a word I can never pronounce. So let's kind of take a look at what sustainability means. Like I said, I feel very confident that we're good on availability. I feel like this is a good video. If it's not, delete it. Oh, wow, Grammarly. Oh, hey, this ad actually interests me. I do love a good wool sweater, and wool is a renewable resource. Just so you know, we can keep shearing sheep. Hey, great looking sweater. Good job. Petrol is British for gas, just so you know. And British is just English. I'm just using British to be funny. Okay, so whereas I think that was a very good video for explaining the idea of sustainability and the way we're going to be using it through most of science class, which is, in talking about like environmental issues, saying that things need to be sustainable. They need to be something that can be used, in perpetuity, or at least in the long term by a large majority of the population. That is true. Now, does that video reflect a little bit of an agenda? Absolutely. It is definitely an environmentally aligned video, which isn't a bad thing, but I do want to make us aware when we are watching videos like that. So, when we're talking about sustainability, we look at that. How long can we use something? Is it something we will run out of? Can we use it short term, long term, forever? These are questions. Okay, so finally, let's take us a little check in here. Um, if you are where you should be on this, and I will put links to all of these videos in. Can you explain for what it means for something to be available and differentiate between where we find renewable resources and non-renewable resources? Um, I think yes, we can. Okay, so when we talk about renewable resources, we mostly find that they come from the sun. We find wind power is coming from uneven heating of the earth, and then that gets, wind moving and a little thingy spinning. And we know that solar, named for the star Sol, also good bonus question. Just saying. Just saying, good bonus question. Great bonus question. Wonderful bonus question. So lucky to have a teacher that even gives bonus questions. Okay, so when we're looking at solar power, we are looking at something that comes directly from the sun. When we're thinking about hydroelectric, the damming of rivers and then using that dam to produce electricity, like the Tennessee Valley Authority does around here, and this is how we get a lot of our electricity around here. Again, we're going to be looking at that water cycle, the rain making its way all across the globe and then coming back and refilling our rivers. This is all driven by the sun. Geothermal energy just comes from the inner workings of the earth. Lava, it's hot. Like if the floor is lava, don't step on it. Easy enough. But it also heats up water. We saw a little bit of this with the Blue Lagoon video in Iceland, and we'll talk a lot more about it in the next couple of weeks. Going forward with geothermal energy, we know that comes from there. And I feel like I'm really like leaving one out. Oh, biomass. Biomass comes from primarily living plants. Guess what? Came from the sun. Uh, they're all available. They're available in perpetuity. If we use them wisely, we're never going to run out of wind. We're not going to run out of sunlight. If we do run out of sunlight, guess what? We have a much bigger problem than an energy shortage, because at that point, we did. We shouldn't run out of hydroelectric stuff. Biomass, if we manage it correctly, we won't run out of. We can just keep using these things. So that answers our question about availability and kind of sustainability there. And then we look at our non-renewables. So when we get into that, we're looking at natural gas, we're looking at oil, we're looking at coal. All of these things are generally found under the surface of the earth. And even our nuclear fuels, generally they have to be mined. These things are found there. So they are available. They're maybe not as easy to access, but they are quite a bit easier to use. And we'll get into that. Are they sustainable? At least for a while. We know that we can continue to use them probably further than tomorrow, but just in some of the videos that we've seen and just by the definition of them being non-renewable resources, are they things we can use in perpetuity or forever? No, they definitely are not. So I think that pretty well sums us up. Let's make sure. Can we explain what it means for something to be sustainable in both the short and long term? Yeah, if it's sustainable in the short term, we can use it for a little while. Long term, we can keep on using it. And can you sort a list of resources into renewable and non-renewable? Oh, yeah, we totally can. And we did. I'll just make those a little bigger. Okay, so that's going to sum us up for today. That gives us our notes. In case you're wondering, this is a picture of a coal mine not too far from here from quite some time ago. A nuclear power plant. They are much less scary than they seem. and of course solar panels or photovoltaic cells, as we will come to know them. So that is going to finish us up today. I know this has been long, but guess what? So is sitting in class. So that information should help you. That slideshow will be going up on Google Docs and it will be added to regularly. So please, please, please check in with it. The links to the videos will be both in the slideshow, and also I will just put links directly there. I forget how I was going to phrase that, but I'm sure it was important. I will put links directly to them, just on the site, just direct YouTube links. So with that, make sure you are getting your reading done. Pages 178 through 185, I think, is where we're going to start out. Starting out with renewable resources, that seems a little chipper. So we'll get there, and then we will get into non-renewable stuff as well, more in depth. So yeah, all right, I think we're good there. Take care, enjoy your weekends, or what's remaining of it. Please, if you are feeling unwell, know that your first assignment from me is to get better. Steamy showers, ice cream, bad TV, get some video games in, like whatever you need to do. Feel better first. Get your work done, but feel better. That is my big priority for you. Lots of love. Everyone take care. See you later. Bye.